ever wondered how Africa got connected to the internet or who even pioneered this initiative? Professor Nii Narku Quaynor, a Ghanaian scientist and engineer, played a major role in the introduction and development of the internet in Africa. He is my guest on today's edition of BizTech on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Ernestina, Serwaa, Asante, and we'll delve deeper into the conversation after this break. Welcome back from that break, and the father of the internet in Africa, like I told you, is my guest. Prof, I'm very glad to meet you today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so can you tell us what informed your decision to come back to Ghana to help bridge the technology gap?
Okay, maybe I can give you two kinds of answers. One from the context, my personal context, and one from, you might say, an aspirational view. I come from a family where there were older scientists, including eye specialists, wood technologists, highway engineers, civil engineers, and so on. And they all came back. They went and trained overseas, US, Australia, and so on, and they all came back.
Oh, okay.
So from that context, I was not questioning whether I should come back or not. Now, from the other side, you know, if you've seen the gap, like the time I saw them in the 70s, like when I was already quite specialized, it would be difficult if you are a serious person or a well-meaning person to walk away. I mean, it was so bad that while visibly I was using these things and building them, designing them, we have to walk from here to Central Accra in order to make a call and so on. So I had a mission, and the mission was principally to help avoid what we call techno-colonialism, where your lack of knowledge of the technology can be used to dominate you economically and socially and so on. So we wanted to, start a techno-liberation movement that emphasized more on self-development and so on.
What did it mean to have internet at the time?
Okay, you are looking at around 93.
Yes.
Okay, so at 93, the only means of message exchange were telex, okay, and maybe some voice, but the number of phones were very limited, less than 100,000 phones at that time. I don't remember the detail. So what it meant was a change in the way we communicate to one where you can peer and communicate with a peer in a very direct way. You didn't have to go through any telex operator or, for that matter, any phone operator. You could do this from your home. And it was, the killer app really was the email, okay, where everybody could send email to any people they didn't know, including spam, which are the concerns you have. And the web was then just being released, okay? So you can also imagine around the same time, internet came to South Africa in 91. Mandela was released around late 90s and so on. I'm trying to show you a political, ideological orientation of some of these things as well. In the same vein, Jerry John Rawlings was then the one who was here in Ghana. So you could see that there was a certain atmosphere of Africa can do, okay? And so just as they got internet in 91, we also got it in 93. So it was a movement of liberation of sorts to make it such that you can democratize technology and everybody can have a part to it and so on. That was the atmosphere.
So how was the reception like when first introduced internet in Ghana?
Okay, there was first a big fight because every disruptive technology has people whose status quo will be changed, and so there was a lot of resistance. You can imagine the telephone companies did not find that particularly interesting, and you can relate to some of new technologies which are coming, the same kind of behavior. So we had to go through a certain period of convincing, and not only the telco, there was only one, Ghana Telecom, but also to convince the national policy and the regulator at the time, which did not exist. What you call NCA at the time, today did not exist in 93, it came into being in 96. So all these discussions culminated in the independent regulator and competing providers, you might say. But it was a situation where there was, you might say, a lot of excitement, a lot of euphoria, a lot of hope for leveling or balancing certain things which we knew were part of the divide. That would be how I would respond to that.
Okay, so how has the evolution of the internet been since you played a major role to introduce it and now?
For me, many things have occurred, but I'm not sure they are striking at the core of what the science and the technology is. Of course, we have created more use, more avenue for people to use it, but I'm not sure that we have succeeded in the supply side. In other words, we don't grow our food, we just eat somebody else's food. Okay, and I'm not sure how sustainable that would be. So, changes have occurred. I mean, look at it. At the time the internet came, there were probably, soon after that, at least 100 local ISPs. Okay. Meaning in the 90s, there were over 100 ISPs. But today, you only see the 2-3 large telcos providing internet connectivity. So to me, you've lost something. I mean, as a country, you've lost something. So when you raise questions about rural areas and so on, then I begin to wonder how come those other hundreds were not sufficiently empowered to be providing services in those rural areas, but instead policy regime maybe more focused on fundraising and so bias things towards those who pay big money. And nobody here will be willing to pay 5 million for a frequency. If the person had 5 million, I'm sure he will spread his point of presence than to use to buy frequency. So it biased the things more towards multinational companies who also want to get return on investment, so they will not go to the underserved areas. And meanwhile, you have not cultivated the local ISPs to address those issues. So I think we've not paid enough attention to the substantive side of the thing, including even the universities. I mean, technology doesn't come from the air; it comes from the schools and the professors, and it trickles down in the whole ecosystem. So if you don't address the education side because you think it's from foreign, you will have problems.
Okay, the conversation is getting very interesting, but then we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, the Prof will tell us more about how best government can digitalize the economy and how best others in the rural areas can get connected to the internet. come back from that break, and Prof, you were saying something before our break that technology does not come from the air, but in schools. Can you elaborate more on that?
Okay. Let's say somebody has made a box that they call PC or whatever. That's the end product. Long before that, somebody was studying how to make the electronic chips.
Yeah.
Are we doing it here?
No.
And on and on and on to even how to put it together, and then how to put software on it, and also what is the business model. Meaning there's an economic side as well, and there is also product positioning, that's marketing and promotion side. Now, can you convince yourself that within our educational system, we are actually advancing these things? I think we are hard pressed, and we seem to be also satisfied with very little gains when the fundamental things are not being addressed. It's very common in typical university, if you give a project or assignment, most of the students prefer to spend their time on how pretty the user interface looks. But really, that's not what the work is. It's not the look of the thing, it's that it works. So it's more about the rules, the logic behind. Is it behaving like you want it to behave? Does it bring the correct information? Does it even work? You see? I mean, you have to know much more about it than simply throwing some statements together to, whiz bang. No. So the fundamental thing in your science is how strong are your physics, mathematics, computer science? How strong are they in terms of the pure technology side? Then we can look at the economics and then the business and so on and so side. Now, if you don't have, this is a trickle-down thing. If you don't have researchers who are advancing this in your country, it's not likely you can establish a center which will suddenly have those expertise. Because the people you are hiring are from the universities. So, and also taking many of these projects out of the universities into side institutions, I also think weakens your whole ego. You're not yet well grounded for you to be taking out pieces of the thing. So I would tend to want to strengthen the universities and the research organizations to be addressing and making things and adding to research and then creating technologies out of their research. Right now, there's not so much of that being done.
Okay, so government has rolled out digitalization agenda, and they are ensuring that people in the rural areas get access to the internet and more. What's your take on it? Do you think, what advice are you going to give first so that these measures or this policy rolled out by government works?
Okay, I haven't really followed the specific policy agenda of the government, but I can make some general statements. See, in this industry or this research area, it's very easy to find yourself with a solution in search of a problem. Okay, and certain things can happen in that you may be depending on certain sources to propose projects for you. But the right way to do it is, before you do any project, you should have seen and identified need. Okay, meaning the community should have deliberated it, discussed it, what problem they are trying to solve, and then offered some options or solutions, so that then the policymaker can select which of the options make sense or are viable. In other words, this, let's say, top-down led thing, it can also miss the real needs and even the real solutions. But the bottom-up multi-stakeholder, community-oriented thing, that should precede, national policy, not the other way around, I think can change the focus of some of these projects that we work with. In other words, it's easy for me to say, I'm going to do this for the schools. But have you really understood that that is the real need of the schools.
Yeah.
You see. Now in technology, it's very easy. If I go and buy some nice tool, everybody will be excited, we'll use it. But I'm saying, is that the real need? Okay. The second thing that every development enthusiast should pay attention to is, during the COVID, I think you noticed that we didn't have e-commerce.
No.
Okay. We didn't even have a way by which you can stay home and work in your office, or stay home and go to school. That means that we have made a big mistake. We have not developed a domestic internet. See, the telcos just carry your traffic and send it to the international content providers. So it's as though you have a means of accessing services internationally, as opposed to having a means to access services locally, internationally, anywhere. You know, as you were biased towards, oh, it's an opportunity for me to order something from Alibaba. But you didn't make provision for ordering something from the corner store to be delivered. You did not respect yourself. You see, you were more interested in Numa, you were not interested in this place. So that's a big problem. And if you're not developing your domestic, then it means you don't even have the skills. All the skills you have are to make you a user of somebody else's something abroad. But you are supposed to make your skills to access services here. That means somebody must be providing the services, and then you must now take the traffic to those people. Sometimes it even costs more to move traffic from here to the end of town than to take it overseas and bring it. No, this is the cost of exchange points and local, terrestrial lines and those costs. So we have real challenges in terms of developing. I mean, it's okay to develop the user market, but you can't sustain it. That means your money is going out. Really. You can't sustain it unless you have adequate number of providers here. And you can't get a provider simply by buying equipment and doing it. You have to get it by you creating your own equipment, your own software, okay, your own talents that will manage these for you or communicate about it. And me, I believe in Africa.
So, Doc, how do we make the internet a safe place? Because every day we'll keep surfing the internet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, internet comes with its own challenges and issues. Because when it was built as a research, endeavor. And so that meant that there was some trust already established. Okay, but as it's gone commercial, we have to bring the trust in. That means we have to do some security things, and most important, since the security problems usually come from the user, okay, we have to really do a lot of awareness, education, and the people who protect the system, where are they going to be trained from? They are from the university. And I'm saying you shouldn't think of creating a certain educational system to solve that problem. Fix the university. Don't create some academy or some other side thing to solve your cybersecurity. It's not going to work. The people being produced from the universities must be the strong ones who can tackle these problems. Okay, then if you aggregate them because you want to create a focused talent capacity, then it makes sense. But if you're arbitrarily doing everything, this center for this, that center for that, you are just dissipating your energy. You should really concentrate your energy. Where is the problem? I'm saying, supposing today I've given everybody connectivity, what would differentiate users? And don't you think, look, they say that the level of broadband affects the GDP.
Yes.
Okay. That means the way you use it determines your GDP. If you are using it just watching TikTok, I don't think your GDP will grow.
Not at all.
Unless you are producing things on TikTok, then it might grow a little. Are you understanding?
Yes.
So the thing is, if you accept this, then it means how you use it. Some people are using it deeper. And I'm saying that the more educated, okay, you are, whether you are in rural or wherever, the more advanced knowledge you have, the better use you have of it. So we should focus on this thing and address it at the core.
Okay. So like, Doc, No, like Prof said, be careful what you put on the internet whilst you are surfing the net, because the internet, they say, never forget. I am Ernestina Serwaa Asante, and the father of the internet in Africa, Professor Nii Narku Quaynor, has been my guest. Thank you for watching today's edition of BizTech on GhanaWeb TV. Remember, Biz headlines follow.